Hey guys, Killix here, multi-rank PvPer, high-end keyer, raider, and one of WoW's top collectors. Today we're going to go over a full in-depth Holy Paladin talent guide for 3v3, Blitz, and RBGs. I'm going to break down every talent build for Lightsmith as well as Herald. Just going to jump right into it. We're going to start with the most popular build at the moment, which is the Lightsmith 3v3 build. So we're going to go over the PvP talents first for arenas. Now, this can also apply for 2s as well, and 3s, and solo shuffle. Now keep in mind, when you're dealing with solo shuffle as opposed to 3v3s, mana is not a thing. So things like Divine Plea is almost never needed in solo shuffle because the rounds end so fast and dampening stacks up so fast that the games are over well before you go boom, right? But when you're doing 2s or 3s versus certain comps, you're going to need Tyrion's Devotion and Divine Plea. Alright, so we're going to go over the PvP talents first. Staple talent is Darkest Before the Dawn. You're never going to change this. This is going to be perma-locked for every single thing that you do. 2s, 3s, RBGs, Blitz, Solo Shuffle, right? You're never going to change this. Now, these last two, they're going to change depending on the comp that you're fighting. So in 3s and Solo Shuffle, the basic build is always going to be Searing Glare with Hollowed Ground. Now, Hollowed Ground is very, very, very good versus warriors and melee in general, rogues as well. We're almost never going to change this unless we're fighting a dampener comp or double casters, right? So you're almost never going to play Searing Glare into double caster because it's very hard to get that off, especially since it's only a 25-yard range. Now, for example, if you're fighting a double caster comp, you're almost always going to play Divine Plea and Spell Bop, and you don't need to play Hollowed Ground, right? So what you would do is you would swap out Searing Glare for Spell Bop, and then you would swap out Hollowed Ground for, where is it, Divine Plea, right? Now these are games that are going to end fast, right? Now, for example, if you're fighting Death Knight, Dev Evoker, those games are not going to last till dampening. So in this case, you won't need Divine Plea. You can stay Hollowed Ground, but keep Spellbop, right? Because DK and Dev Evoker is double magic damage, right? So you want Spellbop. But for now, we're going to almost always use Searing Glare with Hollowed Ground. So the Lightsmith talents are quite a bit different from the Herald talents. You're going to play Melee Wings, and you want to make sure you played Righteous Judgment to proc your Hollowed Ground constantly when you judge, right? So when you're fighting melee, you're almost always spamming Judge on cooldown wherever your partners are so they can constantly kite the melee that they're on, right? With this build, we're going to play Empyrean Legacy with Unending Light, and you want to try to get those judgments out every 20 to 25 seconds, right? If you can get them out every 20 seconds, that's perfect. And then WOG for the free Light of Dawn. Your Aura Mastery, Protection of Deer for the extra increased HPS. And then one other key talent that you can use that costs like 0 mana is when Divine Guidance stacks up to 5 stacks, you want to press Consecrate as like a small passive heal. Now, you don't want to prioritize this when your partners are low because it's a very small heal, right? Now, I also play Repentance. You almost never want to go out of your way to get Repentance, but in longer games, when you have the opportunity to Hodge Repentance something, it could actually be the difference between winning a game or not. Now, the only flex point you really have on the left side here is Judgment of Light. If you're getting trained by melee physical damage, which is almost never the case, you're almost never getting trained. But if you are, you would play Fate's Armor. If you're fighting an assassin rogue or a shadow priest, you're going to spec out of Judgment of Light and you're going to go Righteous Protection. Okay? This is very important. This is going to make the person you're sacking immune to DP, Devouring Plague, and the rogue's bleeds. Right? But for now, we're going to stay Judgment of Light. And on the right side, we're going to play Hand of Divinity. Notice we're not playing Tears here, and we're not playing Boundless Salvation, so we have those 2 extra points to put into Truth Prevails, as well as Empyrean Legacy. Truth Prevail is going to mesh well with this build because you're constantly spamming judgments with melee wings, so it's an extra bit of healing, right? Now, as far as the hero talents, it's pretty basic, right? Now, for the 3v3 Herald build, it's quite a bit different, right? We're going to check this out real quick. It's really only on the right side that's slightly different. You're not going to play Truth Prevails, and you're not going to play 1 minute wings, you're going to play 2 minute wings, okay? And you're going to play Tears, Deliverance, and Boundless Salvation. Everything else is the same. Everything else is almost identical. Same thing again, if you need that flex point, you can spec out of Judgment of Light. Judgment of Light in this build is not good at all, right? It's a tiny HPS increase, but it's not that good because you're not spamming Judgment quite as much as you are with the Lightsmith build. So if you need that flex point, you can put it into Righteous Protection. I'm going to keep it here for now. The other main thing is you're going to play Gleaming Rays instead of Morning Star to buff up your #1 healer, basically. Your Eternal Flame is going to be like your top healing next to Holy Shock every single game. And I always choose to play personal movement speed because I prioritize personal movement speed over group movement speed in PvP. Now, notice the other thing here with this build, you don't have your empowered Imperial Legacy with this build, meaning you don't have Unending Light, right? So your Light of Dawn is going to be quite significantly weaker in this build, but your wogs are going to be much stronger. So you're going to notice more single target HPS increase over the Lightsmith build. Now, if the games are very fast, if you notice you're not using Lay on Hands at least 2 times a game, right? And the matches that you're going you're going to play Divine Plea anyways, so that mana from this talent is not going to be very good anyways. The reason you're playing this talent specifically is because there are some matches where this allows you to get 2 Lay on Hands, right? Instead of 1. But if you're like Solo Shuffle, for example, you're not going to... Depends on what MMR you're queuing at, I guess, specifically, but you're almost never going to play a round that is long enough to have you cast 2 Lay on Hands, right? So you would spec out of this and you would go on Ending Light. It's the same concept in 3v3 and 2s, right? If the games are very fast, you're going to play Unending Light. If they're very slow, you're going to play Turian's Devotion, right? Now this one is kind of a bit of a personal preference, right? Because ideally you want to buff your Light of Dawn, but at the same time, it's very important that you get an extra Lay on Hands during some matches, because Lay on Hands is such a massive heal, right? Especially into late dampening. Now, for the Blitz build, it's going to be quite significantly different actually on both sides. On the left side specifically, you're not going to play Lightsmith and Blitz, you're going to play Herald. Herald is much better this season than it was last season. Lightsmith was the best build last season, but now it's Herald. So we're going to swap over to this. So there's a couple of things that are going to be different here for Blitz, right? The right side is pretty much almost identical, except you're going to have Unending Light. You're not going to have Righteous Judgment, because the Consecrate Freedom is not that important here, right? In Blitz, you're almost always stationary, or you're not moving that much, unless you're on, like, flag maps, where you're pushing on O. But even then, I wouldn't, like, 9 out of 10 times, I wouldn't play this. But if you find yourself struggling to move, like if you're constantly healing offense on flag maps and Blitz or RBGs, and you're constantly struggling to move or get to your targets, I would play Righteous Judgment over Unending Light. Now, this would only be on flag maps, right? Because on flag maps, your team is almost always split, right? So you don't benefit quite as much from the Light of Dawn, but on pretty much any other map aside from Marathi Basin or Deepwind, where it's only a 2v2, any sort of teamfight map, you want to play Unending Light because your Light of Dawn is going to do a ton more healing because you're constantly healing 6 to 7 targets, right? Now the left side is going to be a little bit different from 3s and 2s. One thing you can do here, instead of Hammer of Wrath, you can play Empyrean Ward, or you can play Judgment of Light, or you can play Reduced Bop. This point is not that crucial, to be completely honest. Like, it's not that important. I choose to do Hammer of Wrath because it's an extra holy power generator and it's more damage, right? And then we're gonna play Light Bearer. We're gonna play Fate's Armor. The sack is not that important in Blitz or RBGs, whereas armor is a lot more important because you don't get trained in Blitz, but you get targeted quite a bit more. So armor is more detrimental. All right. Now the left side is pretty much the same. Excuse me. Now the right side is going to be, you're going to play Tyrion's Deliverance with extended, right? You're not going to play Truth Prevails, right? And then your PvP talents, this is what's also going to change in Blitz. You're going to play Darkest Before Dawn, and you're going to play Searing Glare almost every single game. On maps where you're team fighting, you're going to play Divine Plea, right? Because sometimes the team fights are so long that you start to go and you never want to be in that situation where you're in a team fight because your team's gonna die, right? Now you want to make sure when you press Divine Plea, you're like trying to line of sight people that can purge it, because they can actually purge this buff from you and it'll completely cuck you. Or on on Temple of Katmogu, you're gonna play Ultimate Sack. This is very important on Temple, right? Because if you have an orb carrier on your team that has a lot of stacks that's just gonna get one shot, what you can do is you can sack them and spam heal yourself. Or just bubble if you're about to die. And this is going to allow the person with the orb to do a massive amount of damage and be immune for 6 seconds and not die. And potentially wipe their entire team. Like, I've had games with Ultimate Sack where I sack somebody that has an absurd amount of stacks with a damage amp increase, and they literally wipe the entire team themselves in those 6 seconds. Alright, so the only thing for Blitz and RBGs, now you could use this for Blitz and RBGs as well, is the left side is going to be a little bit different. Okay, that's about it. That about wraps up the Holy Paladin Talent Guide. I try to make this quick and short. This is for 3v3, so like I said, you can apply a lot of this to 2s, Blitz, and even RBGs depending on your comp. Whether you're running Lightsmith or Herald, hopefully now you've got a better understanding of how to make the most out of your talents and just adapt to different matchups. If you found this helpful, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what comp you're running or what guide you want to see next. Don't forget to watch me on Twitch when I'm live, and if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Killox, and I'll see you in the next one.